If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support helps me create more. Thank you. Dark clouds gathered ominously as explosions erupted in the distance. Large rocks crashed against a wooden house. A noble strode forward, his footsteps echoing loudly. With a sneer, he declared that the man before him was a rude bastard and demanded to know how he dared to provoke someone from a noble family. The main character, exhausted, rested on a stack of crates. The noble's son raised his sword and swung it down, demanding that he stand up, insisting that their fight was far from over. Knocked down, the protagonist sat with a dark expression, while the noble continued his tirade. He stated that even if he were insulted or had alcohol poured on him, he would endure it, believing that raising a sword against someone weaker would be nothing more than bullying. However, he reminded the protagonist that numerous elders had sacrificed themselves 100 years ago during the Blood Demon Rebellion. They had not fought, so their names could be disgraced. The price for dishonoring them, he said, was something the protagonist would have to pay. The scene shifted to another moment. A girl accidentally spilled a drink on the protagonist and quickly apologized, asking if he was all right. Her boss scolded her, telling her to be more careful, while she questioned why anyone would read a book at an official dinner. The protagonist, looking at the wet pages, asked if there were more tissues. He then excused himself to the restroom, sighing as he lamented how tiresome welcome parties for new employees were. It was difficult to escape from them, he thought. He shivered as the cold water touched his hands, but admitted to himself that in some ways, he was a little envious. He had spent 10 years struggling in Noryangjin before finally becoming a civil servant. Compared to the young newcomers around him, his own life felt pathetic. Checking the time, he told himself to just get through the night. He had been enjoying his book before the interruption. The frustrating protagonist, often labeled as a sweet potato, had finally gotten the sword from that annoying character. But one leg alone wouldn't be enough in that situation, he thought. His anticipation to see what happened next was growing. More than anything, he just wanted to leave the event, go home, and relax with a bowl of ramen while continuing his martial arts novel. As he returned, someone called out to him, mentioning that they were heading for a second round and asking if he would join. The scene transitioned once more, this time to him lying at home, engrossed in his book. Excited, he reacted as the protagonist finally managed to escape. However, as he turned the page, confusion set in. The words were missing. Was the printing defective? Frustration welled up in him. Right at the most critical moment, when the fate of the protagonist was about to be revealed, the story was cut off. Annoyed, he threw the book aside, declaring that he was done with it. The abrupt halt in the story left him deeply uncomfortable. From now on, he resolved to skip this author's works entirely. Suddenly, a blinding light flashed before his eyes. His vision blurred. Had sunlight somehow pierced through his house this intensely? Before he could process it, an unfamiliar noise filled his ears. A voice, someone else's voice, echoed within his home, where he lived alone. Panic surged through him. Then, realization struck. His surroundings shifted, and as he stumbled backward, coughing, dust filled the air. His chin throbbed from the fall. Bewildered, he tried to understand what was happening, who had suddenly appeared. Why was there a golden light surrounding him? Something felt this wasn't his house. Was he dreaming? No, the impact was too painful for a dream. His head ached as if it were about to split apart. And then, memories surged into his mind, but they weren't his own. He saw glimpses of a spoiled noble, Jaegil Mu-young of the prestigious Jaegil family in Shandong province. The arrogant young man had been picking a fight, one that had led to him being beaten by Baekri Jin. But Jaegil Mu-young, wasn't he merely a supporting character in the novel the protagonist had been reading just moments ago? The very same noble who eventually handed over his wealth to the hero, Baekri Jin? Panic deepened as he realized that the memories of Jaegil Mu-young were now embedded in his mind. At that moment, Baekri Jin approached. He demanded that he stand up. The protagonist's mind raced. Could it be? Because their fight wasn't over yet. Had he been possessed by a martial artist? Then this situation. Did Jaegil Mu-young die here? No, he survived, but at a cost. His legs had been crippled. If things continued like this, would he also suffer the same fate? Jez couldn't believe it. Had he really been possessed by a martial artist? Panic set in as he struggled to comprehend the situation. His eyes were filled with fanaticism, but he forced himself to think calmly. If he was inside the novel, then the story would likely follow its original course. In that case, what came next? He recalled the scene at the official dinner party. Jaegal Muyong had cursed at Baekri Jin. Baekri Jin was an orphan. He wasn't a true descendant of the Baekri family, but merely carried the surname. To him, rules were like his parents, and he did not tolerate any transgressions. Wait, if that was the case, then was this situation? Did Jaegal Muyong die here? No, he remembered that Muyong had survived, but one of his legs had been cut off. A chill ran down his spine. He couldn't let himself become crippled like that. He had to start with an apology. Forcing himself to act, he spoke up, trying to justify his actions. This was a world where justification mattered, and perhaps it would work in his favor. He reminded himself that he wasn't Jaegal Muyong, the man who had been too stubborn to apologize and lost a leg because of it. Instead, he declared that he was now completely sober, thanks to the beating he had received. As expected, the opponent hesitated. He was putting away his sword. It had worked. Jez could see that the man was suppressing his anger, just as his original personality dictated in the novel. Relieved, Jez carefully chose his next words to escape the situation. He admitted his mistake, explaining that he had mocked the rules without realizing it. Of course, he understood that mere words weren't enough to make up for his transgression. To show his sincerity, he declared that he would bet his left arm as atonement. Damn it. The man's personality was just as the novel described, cautious and rigid. It was almost eerie how perfectly the character had come to life. However, instead of escalating the conflict, the man acknowledged Jez's discipline as lacking, attributing it to his drunkenness. Seeing that Jez was injured, he even offered to take him home. What? Jez thought. The situation had resolved itself unexpectedly easily. He felt a surge of relief knowing that the man's personality was exactly as written. His leg had nearly been severed, but he had made it through. At that moment, a voice interrupted. How funny of you, Muyong. Startled, Jez turned to see who had arrived. Someone was addressing Muyong so casually. The young master stepped forward. If your apology was sincere, shouldn't you have offered your right hand, the one that holds your sword, instead of your left? Isn't that right, Muyong? Baek Jiren narrowed his eyes. Who are you? The newcomer smirked. Huangbo Seung of the great Huangbo family. Surely you've heard of our status in the Shandong province. Jez's mind raced. Huangbo Seung, the man who pretended to support Jaegal Muyong while secretly trying to stir up trouble? He had never expected him to appear here. Huangbo Seung continued. I don't care whether you're lying. Are you really throwing away your family's honor just to survive? Jez clenched his jaw. The man was being blatantly antagonistic. Then again, in the novel, Huangbo Seung always acted like a mouse in front of a cat. Sincerity is difficult to prove, Jez responded cautiously. Huangbo Seung scoffed. It's not difficult. If you were truly sincere, you would bet your right hand instead. Jez felt his frustration rising. Damn this guy. He was enjoying this far too much. Haha, you're not wrong, Jez admitted with a forced smile. You seem quite eager to corner me. Are you that happy? He considered kneeling, knowing that it was sometimes more important to consider how the other person perceived an apology. Huangbo Seung raised an eyebrow. Huh, is that so? Jez turned to Baek Jiren. So, it's all up to young warrior Baek now. If he wishes, I can do as he asks. What will it be? Huangbo Seung seemed taken aback. Huh? Since when did this guy learn to talk so well? Baek Jiren studied Jez for a moment before speaking. I thought I understood you well, Muyong, but perhaps I was mistaken. Jez exhaled sharply. This guy was making him tense, but something felt off. This scene, it hadn't happened in the novel. In the original story, Huangbo Seung had merely watched from the sidelines and hadn't interfered. Baek Jiren's voice broke through his thoughts. It's already over. I have received a sincere apology, so I won't pursue the matter further. Huangbo Seung hesitated before finally backing down. Ah, is that so? Jez held back a relieved sigh. Kook, I need to get out of here quickly, he thought. As he tried to leave, another voice called out, Darn, is your pain severe? Jez turned to see the young master stepping closer. I'll take him home, he declared, then called out to someone in the crowd. Young Hom Young, help him, a man from the crowd responded. Okay, Jez realized that the people here didn't seem to know him well. As he was being helped away, Baek Jiren gave him a final glance. Get well soon, he said. I'll see you again. The scene began with beautiful lighting and the imposing entrance of a massive gate. A wagon wheel rolled past, followed by the rest of the wagon making its way toward the protagonist's house. As the main character, Jaegal Muyong, watched the scenery unfold, thoughts raced through his mind. I'm really inside the world of the novel, The Hero. Do I have no choice but to accept this? From now on, I must live as Jaegal Muyong. He turned his head. determination settling in his expression. But I absolutely refuse to die after being taken advantage of or reduced to a mere supporting character. I will survive somehow. A young master standing nearby spoke up. Was it Baekjiren? How did you get involved with him? Jigal Muyang responded as if recalling an unpleasant memory. It was a bad relationship from the start. I was sightseeing with a girl, had a drink, and then he picked a fight with me out of nowhere. In reality, the original Jigal Muyang had abused his power, provoking Baekjiren, who had happened to witness his arrogance. But the protagonist, now inhabiting Jigal Muyang's body, told the story from his own perspective, shaping the narrative to suit his needs. The young master scoffed. Damn, you must be furious. At most, you were just having fun and got carried away. What kind of rude brat makes the son of a noble family kneel? Jigal Muyang smirked inwardly. I was being sincere earlier, but this is working out great. Outwardly, he chuckled. I know, right? He mused for a moment. Is he going to use my anger this time? Even in the novel, he remembered, the original Jigal Muyang had tried to poison Baekjiren. However, the plan had backfired, and he had ended up choking on the poison himself, vomiting in humiliation. The young master seemed deep in thought. Sensing an opportunity, Jigal Muyang spoke again. Just thinking about it makes me angry. The young master raised an eyebrow. Really? Jigal Muyang nodded, feigning frustration. Yes, but what power do I have? Please assign a guard to stay by my side. The young master narrowed his eyes. A guard? Who are you talking about? Jigal Muyang had already made up his mind. I've had my eyes on someone. In the future, he will be known as the 1,000 Flamboyant Swords. I believe his name is Yang Ho Myung, since we're of similar age. I have a good feeling about him. The young master's expression turned serious. All right. As the conversation ended, Jigal Muyang arrived at the entrance of his house. He glanced up at the towering gates and took a deep breath. The Jigal household. So this is the home of Jigal Muyang? It's much smaller than I imagined. Suddenly, the faint scent of smoke lingered in the air. Memories that weren't his own flooded his mind, fragments of Jigal Muyang's past. His relatives had abandoned him to secure their own futures. Some had left behind martial arts manuals, others had discarded belongings, and some had even sold parts of the manor before leaving. The only thing left behind was a single cow. Jigal Muyang covered his mouth, overwhelmed by the sudden rush of memories. Damn, he muttered under his breath. Where's my room? I need a quick nap. His thoughts were cut short as dizziness overcame him. His vision blurred. Why is the floor getting closer? Before he could make sense of what was happening, darkness consumed him. When he came to, a sharp gasp left his lips. Ugh! His eyes darted to his hand. It's healed. I must have passed out. It seems this body couldn't handle the extreme stress. Glancing around, he took in his surroundings. Is this Jigal Muyang's room? His gaze landed on the piles of random items scattered around. I guess he was a drunkard and a kleptomaniac. There's so much stuff in here. It seemed that someone had brought him back after he fainted. It's probably Jigal Muyang's parents. He made his way to a mirror and studied his reflection closely. As I thought, I wasn't wrong earlier. His fingers brushed over his face. This isn't the Jigal Muyang depicted in the novel. Even the face, it's mine. Night fell, and the scene shifted to another part of the house. Jigal Muyang's mother, Kang In-ha, spoke with a firm yet concerned voice. This time you really need to make up your mind. You always try to laugh it off. His father, Jigal Cheon, responded with a stern tone. As the apple of my eye, I've been trying to discipline him carefully, but today I'm going to scold him very harshly. Kang In-ha sighed. You should be the one making up your mind. Of course, Jigal Cheon assured her. At the very least, we need to be strict with him now. If we don't, he'll never become a good person. Don't worry, he added, his voice filled with resolve. Back in his room, Jigal Muyang sat quietly. Even in this unfamiliar situation, a strange sense of calm settled over him. Is it because this is home? He wondered. First, let me review the contents of the novel. Before he could gather his thoughts, a loud noise erupted from behind him. He turned his head sharply, only to find his parents standing there. His father's face was twisted with anger, while his mother avoided his gaze, sadness evident in her expression. Then, his father's furious voice rang out, Hey, you! 10 years from now, the evil practitioners of the blood demon cult who had remained hidden from the world, united with forces from the Northern Sea, Ice Palace, the Patala Palace, and even the Ghost Palace built by the nomadic tribes, their target was none other than the Central Plains and the Emperor himself. Some of their forces emerged from the eastern regions of Murim, setting into motion their grand conspiracy, the annihilation of Murim. Their first step was to eliminate the most renowned sects and great families, and now their focus had shifted to this very place, the esteemed Jigal family at this moment. The protagonist thought, now that things have come to this, I just want to live a peaceful life. His expression tensed up, However, at this rate, he might be the first one to die here before he could dwell on. A thunderous voice rang out. "You bastard!" A sudden impact followed. "Arga!" His father lunged at him, not in anger, but to embrace him. "Why the hell did you get injured like this?" his father exclaimed. Dumbfounded, the protagonist stood frozen. Then, without realizing it, a tear slipped from his eye as he hugged his father. They should be my parents. It's impossible for this couple to scold their son. Like this later, he lay on the bed while his mother tended to his wounds. This feels weird. He thought they're treating me as their real son and worrying about me. If I told them the truth, they wouldn't believe me or accept it. Living as their son might be the best choice for them and for my future. Clenching his fists, he sat up and spoke firmly. "Father, mother, I feel ashamed to say this now, but I will stop." Wandering around, his father looked at him in shock. "What are you saying all of a sudden? Don't tell me you hit your head," his mother, skeptical, asked. "How much do you owe this time?" The protagonist sighed. "I'm not saying this because I committed some great mistake. Is that what they thought?" "Huh." Taking a deep breath, he suddenly declared, "I've come to a realization. I'm going to reflect on my mistakes and live. A new life, father? I will change." His father, still doubtful, narrowed his eyes. "So you're going to see that man who calls himself young warrior Beck tomorrow?" "Yes, father," the protagonist replied. "I've reflected on my faults in that incident, and I'll ensure he receives proper compensation." His father sighed. "All right, I'll cover the costs. But are you certain you can resolve this issue on your own?" "Yes, father." His father let out a chuckle. Is the sun going to rise in the west tomorrow?" The protagonist felt sweat trickle down his forehead. Even after everything his foolish son has done, he still remains composed behind that calm smile. Lies a man braver than any martial artist? No, this isn't just bravery just then, the protagonist asked hesitantly. "Father, may I request one more thing?" "Go ahead," his father replied. "I'd like to access the hidden vault inside the Heavenly Scale Archives." His father's expression darkened. The Heavenly Scale Archives. He thought a treasure trove of the great Jeagle family, containing vast ancient knowledge, astronomy, geography, battle formations. It is the very foundation of our family's prestige. The protagonist remained determined that vault contains my most wanted fortuitous encounter. His father placed a hand on his chin. "You already know that the hidden vault isn't a place open to just anyone. Can I take this as your intention to compete for the position of family head?" The protagonist quickly responded with all due respect. "It isn't, father." "If it isn't," his father said firmly, "then I can't allow you to enter unless you are determined enough to go that far. That place is off limits as expected. This won't be easy, huh?" The protagonist clenched his fists, but maintained his composure. "Just because I can't give you a definitive answer right now doesn't mean I take the significance of the hidden vault lightly, father. I simply wish to learn more about the greatness of our family." That, of course, was a lie right now. Protecting myself was already more than enough. His father remained unmoved. "You don't need to enter the hidden vault to do that, but I won't be able to find our ancestors' records anywhere else." The protagonist insisted. "I'd like to read those records, father. My lifeline is hidden, somewhere among them." The scene shifted to the protagonist walking out of the house as he did. His father watched him, admiring the change in his son, but unable to completely rid himself of doubt. "He still doesn't fully trust me." The protagonist continued walking, shaking his head. "Well, I've said what I wanted now, I just have to wait." Meanwhile, inside the house, his father called out to someone. "I called you here because I have something to tell you." "Seo?" Dohan, standing before him, nodded. "Please just say the word." The father turned to the leader of the Heavenly Scale Archives Protection Squad. "Find out if there's anyone with ill intentions ordering Muyong to target the hidden vault." Seo Duhan's expression turned serious. "Understood, sir." The scene begins with a skill tree of the fundamental essence, the basis of many martial arts, as all styles are derived from it. If one obtains the fundamental essence, they can master and wield various martial arts. The protagonist is then shown eating, frowning as he mutters, "This is definitely a scam." Each character in this world has their own way of accumulating and utilizing inner energy, a crucial setting that directly affects the hero's journey. However, the real problem arises when the blood demon cult leader learns about the fundamental essence. A furious demon, surrounded by raging flames, appears in the protagonist's mind as he envisions the cult leader. He furrows his brows and thinks, but this didn't appear in the novel when he first discovered it. Still, it's certain that he became a dangerous figure after obtaining it. Sweat trickles down his face as he realizes the urgency. "I need to quickly familiarize myself with the fundamental essence and ensure my survival," he tells himself. He recalls that a branch of the Jeagle family, the Dian Kang sect, and the now disbanded Quanzhen school possessed something known as the Heavenly Mystery Diary, a text that unravels the secrets of the fundamental essence. To uncover the origins of the Heavenly Mystery Diary, I must enter the hidden vault, he determines. I need to find and read the memoir of the second-generation sect Jeagle. The scene shifts to the protagonist standing outside, glancing back with a resigned expression. "I'm doomed," he mutters. "But still, there's a small training room nearby. It has everything I need." Upon entering, He scans the weapons inside. His gaze lands on a sword. Holding it, he muses, "This was once used by Jaegil Muyong." Channeling his aura into the blade, he feels a faint familiarity. Looking up, he doesn't appear discouraged. The mind training methods. From the fundamentals I learned from my relatives to the third-level methods of martial arts training. If the third level is considered intermediate, then the family head's claim that it goes up to level 6 must be correct. He swings the sword up and down before executing a powerful downward slash, causing his aura to explode outward. But these are merely the remnants of Jaegil Muyong's memories, he realizes. Sitting cross-legged, he closes his eyes and focuses. Although I can vaguely sense my inner energy pooling in my lower abdomen, I can't truly call it my own until I experience it firsthand. Slowly, aura gathers around him. Let's start with the basic mind training method, the heavenly starlit mind cultivation technique. He begins reciting the incantation, and suddenly, a surge of energy floods his body. His aura flares, wrapping around him in a vibrant blue glow. "I did it," he exclaims. "This is Qi. It feels so natural, as if I've been doing this for years." Determined, he presses on. Let's move on to levels 2 and 3. As he deepens his training, more aura swirls around him. Suddenly, pain shoots through his body. He grits his teeth as the energy becomes overwhelming. "What is this?" he gasps. In an instant, all the aura disperses, leaving him breathless. He falls backward in shock. This guy had so much inner strength, but none of this was mentioned in the novel. Moreover, he remembers a crucial detail: the reverse bone wash essence. It was meant to maximize potential if received before the age of 10. That means there were high expectations for this guy. What a fool. He left a body like a goldmine completely untouched and wasted his potential on foolishness. He clenches his fist. "I don't understand. Jaegil Muyong was naturally lazy, but I'm different. I'm a hard worker. I endured 10 years at Noryangjin. Surviving here is nothing for me." With newfound resolve, he declares, "From now on, I'll refine this body to the point where I become one of the main characters in this story." The next morning arrives, showing the protagonist sleeping on the ground. A voice disturbs his rest. "You can't sleep here. Get up." He groans, rolling his eyes up. "I'm dead tired. Who is it now?" As he looks up, he sees a familiar face. "You're Baek Ah," the girl nods. "Yeah, I'm Baek Ah." Realization dawns upon him. This is Jaegil Muyong's younger sister, the one he ignored because he didn't want to share his parents' love. Looking at her, he thinks she's a cute child. A panicked maid suddenly screams, "Young lady, how can you just disappear like that? Do you know how much I searched for you?" The protagonist watches the frantic scene unfold, confused. Why is Baek Ah wandering alone so early in the morning? The maid, visibly shaken, falls to her knees. "Young master, it's all my fault. I stepped into the kitchen for a moment and she ran away. Please punish me. Kill me if you must." The protagonist stares at her, dumbfounded. Did she just ask to be killed? Instead of responding, he gently pats Baek Ah's head. "Next time, don't wander off like that." Baek Ah cheeks in defiance. "But I want to explore." He sighs. "Then how about this?" He lifts her onto his shoulders. "Let's go to the market. You can buy and eat whatever you want, but in return, you have to listen to me. Deal?" The maid, still kneeling, watches in shock. He's not that kind of person. Is he planning to sell her off? The scene shifts to the protagonist's father, who reacts with disbelief. "You're taking Baek Ah to the market? You're what?" "Yes," the protagonist replies. "On my way to meet young warrior Baek for settlement. I'll take her out and let her play." The father waves a hand. "No need to ask permission. You can go any time." "Thanks, father. But just in case, I'll assign a guard to accompany you," the father adds. "You must follow my orders." Lowering his gaze, the protagonist mumbles, "I don't mind taking a guard with me," but just then the scene shifts to the family's entrance. The assigned guard arrives, looking up with a half-serious expression.